Now here in the studio, welcome, Senator Sanders. Good to see you in person.
Great to be with you, George.
Satellite. So, Wyoming last night, another win for you. You've got a little bit of a streak going here, but as Cecilia pointed out, you actually tied Secretary Clinton in delegates, so you're no closer to getting the nomination.
From Wyoming, but here's the point, George. In the last 3.5 weeks, we have reduced her margin by a third. I think the proper number is about 220 delegates or so that we are now behind. We're moving to New York State, we're moving to Pennsylvania, we're heading out west to California, Oregon, a lot of big states out there. We believe that we have the momentum. We believe that the polling is showing that we're closing the gap. Actually, as you may have noticed, of the last 3 national polls out there, we have defeated Secretary Clinton in 2 of them. So no question, I think the momentum is with us. We have come a really, really long way, and I think we can win this thing.
The number you're talking about is pledged delegates.
Yes.
You say 220, the AP says 250, her lead. Is your position now, the position of your campaign, that unless Secretary Clinton has enough pledged delegates to guarantee the nomination, just pledged delegates, then you're going to take a floor fight at the convention?
Well, here's what I think. I think at the end of the day, what Democrats all over this country want to make sure is that somebody like a Donald Trump or a Ted Cruz does not end up in the White House. And I think what more and more Democrats are seeing is that Bernie Sanders is the stronger candidate.
She's getting more votes.
Well, she's getting more votes. A lot of that came from the South. But if you look at the polling out there, we do a lot better against Trump and the other Republicans in almost every instance, not everyone, than she does. And the reason is that we both get a lot of Democrats, but I get a lot more independents than she does. So I think you're going to see a lot of Democrats saying, look, what's most important is making sure that we defeat Trump or Cruz or whoever. Bernie Sanders is the strongest candidate.
We saw that exchange you had with Cecilia Vega over whether or not Secretary Clinton is qualified. You said this week once that she was unqualified. Did your emotions get the best of you there?
Well, look, you know what I think? It's very clear, and I'm sure you got the press releases and the memos from the Clinton people. After we won Wyoming, there was a change in tone on the part of the Clinton people. And essentially they said, we're not going to be very nice to Bernie Sanders anymore. We're getting beaten every week. We're going to stop beating him up. We go to New York City. And that's what they have done. Their tone has changed. They use the word, or their surrogates have used the word about whether or not I am qualified.
There's a headline. She didn't say you were unqualified.
Well, she didn't quite say that, but her surrogates implied that. And all that I meant by that is that if you vote for the war in Iraq, which turns out to be the worst foreign policy blunder in the modern history of America, if you take, through your super PAC, tens and tens of millions of dollars from Wall Street, other special interest, if you support almost every disastrous trade agreement in this last 30 years.
President Obama supported that. Is he not qualified?
No, he is very qualified. But my point is, it is a question of judgment. It is a question of judgment. You know, fracking. Secretary Clinton supports a $12 minimum wage when the world is clear now we want a $15 minimum wage. So I think the issue more is judgment. Does she have the experience? Is she extremely intelligent? We all know that she is.
Let's go on to some of the other issues that came up this week. We just saw you saying President Clinton should apologize for that statement he made to the Black Lives protester. The underlying issue there is the 1994 crime bill, which you supported. So do you have any second thoughts about that bill?
Well, that bill was one of these bills that had good things in it and it had bad things in it. If I had voted against that bill, you would be asking me, Bernie, why did you vote against the ban on assault weapons? Right? That was in that bill.
Right, that was in the Senate bill, the final passage, not in the original.
Well, it wasn't a bill that I had to vote for. The Violence Against Women's Act. All right? You would say, Bernie, aren't you concerned about domestic violence? But if you check the record, I was on the floor talking about many of the negative aspects of that, including the death penalty, which I strongly oppose. Bottom line now, George, is that we need major criminal justice reform in a very broken system. As Americans, we should not accept the fact that we have more people in jail. We need reforms of local police departments all over this country. And I intend, if elected president, to work very aggressively on that.
So what exactly do you think President Clinton should apologize?
Look, I think we all knew back then what that language meant. That was referring to young blacks. And I don't think in this country elected officials or leaders should be using that type of terminology.
Also on this issue, the families of the victims of gun violence are calling on you to apologize. Held a press conference here in New York on Friday. And Erica Smigelski, whose mother was killed in the Sandy Hook shooting, had this to say.
It is completely phony that Sanders didn't have the decency to respond to us when asked for an apology. Instead, he used us as political tools in order to attack Hillary Clinton. I urge Senator Sanders to respond to the families of gun violence about his record of support for gun makers and to make an apology.
Let me deal with that. I get a little bit upset when one of the great and horrific tragedies in modern American history, unspeakable, becomes a political issue. So let me just simply say this. Bernie Sanders comes from a state that has virtually no gun control. I have a D- voting record from the NRA. Terms of assault weapons back in 1988, when I ran for Congress, I had to take on all of the gun people who disagreed with me strongly when I said we should ban assault weapons in this country. I strongly support President Obama's effort to improve the instant background check so we make sure that people who should not have guns don't get guns. I strongly support doing away with this gun show loophole that allows people to circumvent the law and the straw man provision which allows people to buy guns legally and then sell it to criminals. So I will do everything that I can. And by the way, coming from a state, a rural state, that has no gun control, I think I am in a position to create the kind of consensus.
But as you know, they're talking about the issue, your vote to shield gun makers from liability. They want you to apologize for that.
No, I'm not. In this sense, look, and the American people disagree on this. All right, you're a gun shop owner in northern Vermont. You sell somebody a gun legally. The guy comes in, goes through the instant background check, sells him a gun. This guy goes out and shoots somebody. Should you be sued for legally selling him a gun? You're a gun manufacturer, you do the same. I don't think so. On the other hand, somebody walks in and says, give me 10,000 rounds of ammunition and 14 assault weapons. Should you know that there's something going on? You should. And you should be sued for not responding or calling up the police to that. So that is my view, and I understand that not everybody agrees with me.
Let's talk about some economic issues. You called out Secretary Clinton yesterday for failure to endorse clearly increasing Social Security benefits and the tax increase to pay for it.
Yes.
Now, you know, most people have to supplement Social Security, even with the increases you're talking about. So what do you say to people who saved? You said the Wall Street who need to save. You say Wall Street is based on a business model of fraud. Is it too broken for people to invest in the stock market?
Oh, you're asking me two questions. Let me get back to Social Security. There are millions of disabled veterans and seniors who are trying to make it on $11,000 and $12,000 a year Social Security, and they can't. The Republicans, in many instances, want to cut Social Security. What I want to do is expand it. And what I said yesterday is we have legislation, and it has good support, that says you lift the cap on taxable income. Right now, somebody makes millions, somebody makes 118,000. They pay the same amount into it. If you lift the cap starting at 250 and above, 250,000 and above, we can improve benefits for seniors earning $16,000 a year or less by $1,300 a year, not insignificant, and extend the life of Social Security for 58 years. That is my view. Now, that is a very similar view to what Obama said in 2008 when he ran against Clinton. She disagreed with him then. I am asking her now, do you believe that we should extend the life of Social Security and expand benefits? She has not responded to that.
Okay, and then secondly, though, how about the broader issue of investing in the stock market? Is the entire model so broke that people should stay away?
Well, I don't think people call me up as a financial advisor as to what they should do with their money. This is what I believe. We bailed out Wall Street against my vote, by the way, because, as you'll recall, they were, quote unquote, too big to fail. Today, 3 out of the 4 largest banks in this country are bigger than they were when we bailed them out because they were too big to fail. The largest 6 banks have assets equivalent to 58% of the GDP of America. Yes, you're quite right. I believe that the business model of Wall Street is, in fact, fraud. As you know, a couple of months ago, Goldman Sachs reached a $5 billion settlement with the United States government because, in fact, they were selling worthless packages of subprime mortgages. People will do what they want with their money, but I believe we will have a better and stronger financial system if we break up the major banks on Wall Street.
Finally, the tax filing deadline is this week, and the issue of tax returns has come up in this campaign. Donald Trump says he's not going to release his. Secretary Clinton has released 8 years of tax return. You've released 1 year's summary. Are you going to release more and
Sure, we
full
are.
returns?
Absolutely. You know, yeah, I know the Clinton people are raising it. It will be fairly boring. I mean, the truth is that over the years, my wife actually does our taxes. She's been very busy doing a great job on the campaign thing. Yes, we will get them out. There'll be nothing there that will shock you. Sorry to have to tell you this. It will not be a front big story.
Not like Donald Trump's returns?
I don't know what's in Trump's returns, but mine are pretty boring.
Finally, New York must win?
George, I have been asked that question from Iowa, New Hampshire, every state in this country. Every state is a must-win in a sense. Clearly, New York has a lot of delegates. We are working really hard here. We want to win. We think we got a shot to win. And if we win here, it will be a major boost to Pennsylvania, to other states, and then out west.
Senator Sanders, thanks for coming in this morning.
Thank you.